a very culturally sensitive and significant event for us, especially in the North, my home. How exactly you interpret that change will depend on your politics, but what's undeniable is that organised labour declined hugely as an economic force. Neoliberal economics was born, and we live under it today. Companies were free now to protect their profits using every capitalist safety measure in the book. They could cut wages, have increased globalisation, zero-hour contracts, and the government would help with benefit cuts, corporate tax cuts, privatisation of public services, and austerity. Financialisation of the economy took off too. That means that more and more profit is generated now not through employing labourers, but through lending money, credit, loans, investment banking. Economies more and more rely on people being in debt and speculation on that debt. In 1989, Francis Fukuyama said that we had arrived at the end of history. With the fall of fascism and communism, liberal democracy, or at least the version of it that includes state monopoly capitalism and neoliberalism, had won. It was the last political ideology standing, and Marx was wrong. Humanity wouldn't inevitably progress into communism. State-backed capitalism was the final form of human government, and Marxism was dead. Or was it? In his book Post-Capitalism, Paul Mason tells that story in much greater detail. But then we get to the present, and we've still got problems. With all that reliance on debt, when people can't pay the debts, you get things like the 2008 financial crash or the Greek debt crisis. And Mason says that with ageing populations putting more strain on public services, the debt is only going to get worse. He thinks that 2008 was a warning about neoliberalism that we have failed to listen to. And if we keep cutting public services and doubling down on austerity, he says, when the next financial crash happens, there'll be nothing left to cut. And remember in part 2, we said that as long as destroying the environment is profitable, capitalism can't really stop itself? Mason thinks that for that reason, unleashing the free market on the energy sector was the wrong move. Climate change is bad news on its own, but it will also exacerbate the refugee crisis over the coming decades, which compounds both social and economic problems. Mason thinks that the invisible hand of the market is poised to give us all the invisible finger. But there's something else, too. Something surprisingly Marxist. As a kind of thought experiment, Marx imagined what would happen if we could get a machine that took no labour to build and which never ran down. The value of the product it made, he said, would slide towards zero. If the machine contains no labour, then it can't transfer any labour to the product. And if it never wears down, you never have to replace it. So the product contains less and less labour, so its value shrinks. Information, Mason says, is that perfect Marxist machine. Software is used in production more and more to design, model, test products virtually. It never wears down, and you can copy it as many times as you like at zero cost. Imagine a program that controls the automated production of cars. It costs to make the computers to run the program, although those costs are falling fast, but once you've got it, you can copy it as many times as you like and distribute it for free to every car factory in the world. You can replace the program if you make an update, but otherwise it'll keep going, and the value of cars will fall. Mason calls this the information effect, and of course it's not just restricted to cars. You can use information technology to make just about anything. And although you will still need the physical robotic arms to assemble the car, their value becomes dependent on the software they run, and their value falls when you use information technology to make them. That's the power of the information effect. You can make stuff that's very, very useful, but which contains almost zero labour, and therefore can't be part of a market system. Capitalism is trying to hang on. It's using the state to uphold patent laws on software that otherwise you could just copy and distribute for free. It's using planned obsolescence. It's using price monopolies on things that otherwise have no distribution costs. It's taking things that normally wouldn't be valuable, like your browsing history, and turning them into opportunities to generate revenue through targeted advertising. It's creating what anthropologist David Graeber called bullshit jobs. Jobs that don't really do any good and could easily be automated. They just exist so that people will be working. Like with the Industrial Revolution, Mason says that the potential of the new technology to liberate people from working is being held back in the name of profit. But Mason thinks this time, capitalism's luck has run out. Information is creeping into the production of just about everything, and unless we smash all the computers, it ain't going away anytime soon. And it's so easy to get around the laws that protect patents on software. And as technology improves, more and more jobs could be automated, which means finding bullshit jobs for more and more people as they get more and more angry at the alienation state monopoly capitalism is bringing them. Mason thinks that capitalism's ability to adapt has finally run out, and with the looming crises, the longer it hangs on, the worse things are going to get. His proposed solution is post-capitalism. The final section of his book outlines his Project Zero, the move toward an economy where information technology means that the production costs of everything are as close to zero as possible, where labour time and the cost of living is therefore as close to zero as possible, and where we have a zero-carbon energy system. He says that the ultimate aim is to reduce to a minimum the hours it takes to produce what humanity needs. I'll leave you to explore the details of Project Zero in his book, but I also wrote some things about it that you can find links to below. But isn't this all, this whole series, just utopic? Isn't Marx mad? Well, some people might say that carrying on as we are and expecting everything to be alright is arguably even madder. And Mason says, look at patriarchy. In the last century, the liberation of women has begun. There's a way to go, but he says it is absurd that we are capable of witnessing a 40,000-year-old system of gender oppression dissolve before our eyes, and yet still seeing the abolition of a 200-year-old economic system as an unrealistic utopia. Capitalism might seem as permanent as the earth under your feet, but what Marx showed more than anything is that if you look closely enough, it is not carved in stone. So it's hard to know who's more crazy. Marx, or everyone else. That's the end of my month of Marx. You've learned about his ideas, their history, and potentially our future. I want to say thank you to the Lit guy for helping me with the script for part 1. If you don't follow him already, go and do it. The man's a freaking genius. Thank you very much for watching, and for more philosophical videos from me every Friday, please subscribe. If you'd like to support Philosophy Tube by throwing a few dollars my way on Patreon, I would really appreciate that. You can be part of the growing sharing economy, and you can also earn rewards by doing it.